Every doctor knows that treating illnesses means shots and pills. But your medical method? You just physically beat the living daylights out of the disease. You rained down a flurry of punches on a panda dying of organ failure. Not only was it instantly cured, but it even picked up Tai Chi. You slapped a balding golden monkey awake, and now it's turned into an enlightened grandmaster who can pour tea using telekinesis. You even single-handedly crushed a beast king trying to destroy the city. Yet right now, you're cornered at the zoo gates by some blonde punk demanding you pay off your debts. This zoo is the very last thing your parents left you. But times have changed. The era of spiritual awakening has quietly arrived. With strange mutations everywhere, the world is changing by the day. Who wants to see normal animals anymore? The zoo's business just keeps getting worse. You're already 3 million in the hole, barely hanging on by a thread. The blonde punk doesn't even want to waste his breath. He just points his steel pipe at you. I'm giving you 3 days. If you don't have the cash by then, I'm bulldozing this whole place to the ground. But right at that moment, the old vet, Grandpa Lee, comes stumbling over. He's clutching a critical condition notice, his face whiter than a sheet of paper. Boss, it's terrible. Gun isn't gonna make it. It's complete organ failure, and it's a disease I've never even seen before. There's no treatment for this anywhere in the world. He's completely incurable. Those words hit you like a sledgehammer, slamming straight into your chest. Seeing this, the blonde punk just gets even more cocky. He drops one last threat. Just wait for the bulldozers to bury you in 3 days. He turns and walks off with his gang. Soon, the whole zoo falls dead silent again. The only sound left is the wind whistling through the broken enclosures. You walk alone into Gun's cage. You crouch down in front of him, staring at the little guy you've bottle-fed since he was a baby. Your heart feels like it's being squeezed in a vice. You reach out and stroke his dull, lifeless forehead. There's only one thought echoing in your mind. Save him. You have to save him, no matter what it takes. And the very second your palm touches him, a cold, robotic voice suddenly explodes in your head without warning. Strong host willpower detected. The thug doctor system has been successfully bound. Level 10 disease demon detected. Organ failure slime. The very next second, it's like someone hit the pause button on the entire world. The rundown cage, the rusted gates outside, and the fading footsteps in the distance. Everything freezes entirely. Immediately after, a violent, terrifying suction force pulls from your palm. The world spins wildly, and your consciousness is violently dragged into another dimension. When you finally open your eyes, you're standing inside a massive, absolutely disgusting cavern of flesh and blood. Beneath your feet is a dark red ground that's slowly squirming like human organs. The air reeks of rot and slimy ooze. And right in front of you stands a massive monster, the size of a dump truck. Made entirely of rotting slime, the giant beast opens its gaping, terrifying jaws right at you. You instinctively look down, only to realize that you're holding nothing but a rusted, broken steel pipe. Right on cue, the system chimes in again. Rule number 1. All diseases here are materialized into physical monsters. Rule number 2. The absolute only way to cure the patient. Rule number 3. Within this mental landscape, the host possesses limitless physical strength. Is to physically beat the living hell out of them. But before you can even process any of this, that horrifying organ failure slime has already lunged right at your face. But your survival instinct kicks in way faster than your thoughts. You grab the metal pipe and take a wild swing. Boom, the sheer force of the strike completely blows your own mind. It feels like an engine just exploded inside you, unleashing an insane surge of power. That rusty old pipe actually just smashed the slime monster's head over 3 meters to the side. Its massive body slams hard into the fleshy wall, sending a violent tremor through the entire space. It worked. Your fear hasn't even faded yet. But a massive wave of excitement beats it to the punch. So this so-called absolute physical strength is actually real. But that hit just sent the slime monster into an absolute frenzy. It snaps its jaws wide open, blasting a stream of corrosive venom at you like a high-pressure hose. Instead of backing down, you charge right in. You kick off the ground, launching yourself into the air like a cannonball and dodging the venom with ease. You flip in midair and bring the pipe crashing down, slamming it ruthlessly right into the monster's skull. The pipe snaps completely in half on impact, but you don't even hesitate. Using your downward momentum, you drive both knees hard into the monster's back and mount it. Weapon broken? Then use your fists. The very next second, you start swinging, pounding away at it like an absolute madman. Bam! Every punch cracks through the air like a whip, blasting the slime monster until toxic sludge goes flying everywhere. All the frustration you've been bottling up these past few days, the rage, the resentment, even the burning anger from that blonde punk's disgusting face. You channel it all right into your fists, unleashing every last ounce of it in a brutal barrage. The slime monster thrashes wildly, trying to buck you off, but your legs are locked around its back like a literal vice. No matter how much it rolls, it can't shake you loose. Just then, the system chimes in again. You've found the disease demon's core. You narrow your eyes, and sure enough, deep inside the monster's chest cavity is a black crystal the size of a fist. Found you. You raise both fists high into the air, focusing every last drop of your strength into a single point. You bring them crashing down right onto the core. Break, damn you. With a massive crack, the black crystal shatters into pieces. The decaying slime monster lets out one last, desperate screech as its massive body rapidly evaporates like melting snow, until it completely dissolves into a shower of golden light, and the entire fleshy cavern instantly returns to a warm, vibrant state. Ding! Congratulations, host, you have successfully defeated the level 10 disease demon. The illness has been completely eradicated. Loot drop triggered. You have obtained 1 bronze chest. The chest springs open, and 2 streams of light shoot straight into your body. You've acquired the passive skill, Basic Beast Affinity. You've obtained the special item, 1 Basic Spirit Beast Evolution Pill. Your combat power in the mental realm is now feeding back into your physical body in the real world. Conversion rate, 10%. A sudden rush of warmth floods through your entire body. You clench your fists. You can actually feel it. Your physical body in reality has genuinely been enhanced. And in the very next second, your vision warps, and your consciousness is violently pulled back to reality. You snap your eyes open, only to find yourself still crouching right in front of Gun. It feels like only a single second has passed, but incredibly, Gun, who was completely lifeless just a moment ago, suddenly twitches, and opens its eyes. A strange golden light flickered deep within its eyes. Gungan, you had barely called out its name when it pounced right at you. It rubbed its big, fluffy head wildly against you, licking your face until you were covered in slobber. Not only had it survived, but it was even more energetic than before. It was stronger, and its fur had completely regained its healthy shine. You finally breathed a sigh of relief. Taking the opportunity, you stuffed the Basic Spirit Beast Evolution Pill into a bamboo shoot, and handed it over. How could Gungan know there was a pill hidden inside? It just grabbed it and happily munched it down to the very last bite. The moment the pill hit its stomach, its massive body suddenly began to tremble. Its joints let out a rapid series of pops and cracks, as if it were undergoing some kind of total rebirth. But right at that moment, the zoo's front gate was violently kicked open again. Blondie was back, and this time, he brought along 20 or 30 thugs. Every single one of them was gripping a steel pipe. Looking far more menacing than before, he roared, "Chen Laduo, you son of a bitch. You dared to throw boiling water on me? If I don't beat the living crap out of you today, my name isn't Huang, and grab that panda while you're at it. Tie it up," Boss Wang said. "It's worth way more alive." The gang roared as they charged in. You were just about to stand up, but Gungan stepped right in front of you. It suddenly reared up on its hind legs. Standing over 2 meters tall, its body was like a massive brick wall. It shielded you completely. The thug at the very front gathered his courage, raised his steel pipe, and swung it viciously right at Gungan's head. And then, everyone witnessed a scene they would never forget for the rest of their lives. Gungan slowly traced a circle in front of its chest with its paws, and struck an absolutely flawless Tai Chi starting stance. The thug's brain instantly short-circuited, but before he could even process what was happening, Gungan moved. With a gentle flick of its paw, it deflected the steel pipe using an incredibly smooth and fluid motion. Following the momentum, it gently pushed forward, landing a soft palm strike square on the guy's chest. Bang! That huge guy, who weighed nearly 200 pounds, went flying backward on the spot like a deflated football. He soared through the air for over 10 meters, crashing right into the shattered remains of the front gate. The entire yard fell dead silent. Blondie's eyes nearly popped out of his skull. Unfortunately, before he could snap out of it, the rest of his gang had already completely lost it. A panda that knows kung fu? It just sent a grown man flying with one slap. Is this a freaking zoo or a monster's den? Terrified, the crowd dropped their steel pipes and scrambled wildly out the door. Blondie's legs turned to jelly from fear. After running out of the zoo, he trembled as he dialed Boss Wang Tianshang. Boss Wang, something's wrong. There's a monster in that trashy zoo. That damn panda knows kung fu. There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. Then, a cold voice replied, "If regular thugs can't handle it, then we'll bring out the heavy hitters. Bring my Heisha over there." Meanwhile, your passive skill, Beast Affinity, was starting to take effect. The other sick animals in the zoo seemed to sense the healing aura radiating from you. They began to whimper softly in your direction, filled with awe, almost as if they were pleading for help. You followed their cries, your gaze eventually landing on an elderly golden monkey huddled in the corner. It used to be the star attraction of the zoo, but now it was just curled up in the corner, with large patches of its fur missing, and its skin swollen and covered in sores. Vital signs are fading fast. A level 15 pathogen detected. Fungal parasites, huh? A confident smirk plays on your lips. Looks like we've got a new patient. But right before you could even step forward, the deafening, aggressive roar of engines echoed outside the zoo. Over a dozen black SUVs slammed to a halt. Nearly 100 men in suits swarmed out, every single one of them armed with stun batons and riot shields. This was a whole different league from those cheap street thugs. The crowd parted. A middle-aged man stepped through, wearing gold-rimmed glasses and a tailored suit. He walked out slowly. It was Wang Tianshang, and right at his feet, leashed and snarling, was a massive bulldog the size of a calf. The beast was pitch black with glowing, blood-red eyes. Its drool was highly acidic, burning tiny craters into the concrete wherever it dripped. This was Black Shark, a mutant hound pumped full of black market genetic enhancers. Wang Tianshang adjusted his glasses and glared at you, his voice dead cold. Sign the deed transfer, and your 3 million dead is completely wiped clean. I'll even throw in another million for relocation. Otherwise, my Black Shark here will rip your precious animals to shreds, one by one, while they're still breathing. It was a blatant threat. No sugarcoating, no hesitation. But you didn't even bother to look back. You just kept crouching in front of the old golden monkey's cage, completely focused on examining its condition. Wang Tianshang let out a bitter, furious laugh. His fake gentleman act completely shattered. He aggressively waved his hand forward. Bulldoze it, crush these garbage gates and those cages into dust. A massive bulldozer roared to life, charging violently straight into the zoo. Chaos erupted instantly. The terrified shrieks of the animals echoed through the park. But then, Gun let out a thunderous, furious roar. The panda leapt directly into the path of the speeding bulldozer. Then, he quickly sprinted to the side, wrapping his arms around a massive landscaping boulder weighing easily over a ton, and hoisted it clean into the air. Without missing a beat, he carried the colossal rock right back to the center of the road. Bam! He slammed it mercilessly into the earth. Half the boulder embedded itself deep into the concrete. It stood there like a solid mountain, completely deadlocking the bulldozer's path. Panicking, the driver slammed on the brakes. The massive blades stopped less than half a meter from the stone barricade. Everyone's jaw dropped. Wang Tianshang stared in absolute disbelief at Gun. But the shock quickly morphed into deep, sickening greed. He was finally convinced that beneath this rundown zoo lay the very thing everyone was killing for in this era of awakening. A spiritual energy vein, because otherwise, how else could an ordinary panda practice Tai Chi, let alone throw boulders around to stop a bulldozer? Get him, tear that beast apart. Hearing the command, the mutant hound let out a blood-curdling howl and violently snapped its leash. It launched itself at Gun like a bolt of black lightning. But at that exact moment, you had already placed your hand on the old golden monkey's forehead. While all hell was breaking loose behind you, your face remained dead calm, completely unfazed. Saving this monkey was the only thing that mattered right now. Now entering the mental host world of the level 15 pathogen, the mutated spectral fungal parasite. With a sharp buzz, your consciousness was violently ripped away from the physical world. By the time you opened your eyes, your surroundings had morphed into a damp cave, reeking of mold. The walls are covered in dense, egg-like pustules. And what's under your feet? It's not even solid ground. It's made of countless, pitch-black bugs, each the size of a fingernail. and covered in sharp barbs, swarming together into a literal sea of insects. Rustle, rustle, a dense, scratching noise echoes from every direction. It's enough to make your skin crawl. There's no giant boss monster here. This time, you're facing an absolute tidal wave of bugs. The swarm goes absolutely crazy the second you find your footing, rushing at you from all sides like a pitch-black tsunami. They want to drown you alive. Oh, so we're playing the swarm tactic, huh? You let out a cold smirk, raise your foot, and stomp down hard. Boom, a massive shockwave blasts outward. The swarm within a 3-meter radius is instantly crushed into mush. Green goo and shattered black shells splatter everywhere. But unfortunately, this is only the beginning. The surviving beetles quickly swarm together, climbing over each other. Merging, in the blink of an eye, they form a towering, 10-meter tall bug giant right in front of you. Its massive hand slams down from above, but you swiftly dodge out of the way. You let that monstrous fist smash a deep crater into the ground. And right after, you sprint at lightning speed straight up its arm, while countless bugs leap out to bite you. Most of them are blasted away by your energy aura, while the rest just leave shallow scratches on your skin. Right then, the system alerts you. The disease core is hidden inside the giant's chest. It's called the fungal swarm queen. Found you, you roar under your breath. Raw power surges furiously into your right fist, your arm muscles literally cracking with energy. The very next second, ignoring the biting swarm, you punch straight through the bug giant's chest. Squish, your entire arm plunges deep inside, and you spread your fingers wide, grabbing hold of that basketball-sized, glowing green queen. And then, you crush it. Splat, the sound is disgustingly loud. Like squeezing a juicy tomato, the fungal queen explodes into a messy pulp. The entire bug giant instantly freezes, then crumbles apart, piece by piece, starting from the gaping hole in its chest. The endless sea of black bugs loses its life force, turning to dust, one by one. In just a few seconds, they completely vanish. The damp, stinking cave quickly returns to normal. Congratulations to the host for successfully exterminating a level 15 disease demon. The mutated ringworm swarm, the target disease, has been thoroughly eradicated. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 1 silver chest. The chest opens, 3 streaks of light fly right into your body. You obtained a special recipe. Ancient Monkey Brew. You obtained a skill book. Grandmaster of Tea. This can be bestowed upon others. You also obtained a special item. 3 Spirit Beast Awakening Pills. You stare at that Grandmaster of Tea skill column. You blank out for a second, but then immediately think of the old golden monkey. The system chimes in almost instantly. The target's compatibility with this skill is 99%. So what are you waiting for? A monkey that knows how to brew traditional kung fu tea. This throat is way bigger than a normal spirit monkey's. You instantly choose to grant the skill. The skill turns into a streak of light, sinking straight into the old golden snub-nosed monkey's body. And the very next second, the outside world's explosions and beastly roars shatter the spiritual realm. The thunderous rumble of the bulldozer, Gun-Gun's furious roar, Hei Shaw's manic howl. The battle has clearly reached a boiling point. Your heart skips a beat. Your consciousness violently snaps back to reality. In the real world, the bloodbath between Hei Shaw and Gun-Gun is brutal. Even though Gun-Gun has mastered the Tai Chi stance, Hei Shaw is still a monster fueled by black market gene serums. Its speed and power are on a completely different level. Gun-Gun keeps using Tai Chi to deflect the blows, but it's no use. Hei Shaw lands a vicious claw strike right on his back, ripping open a horrific, bone-deep gash. Crimson blood instantly soaks his black and white fur. He roars in agony, swinging a massive bare paw right back at it. But Hei Shaw's killer instincts are terrifying. It twists in midair, dodging the blow with ease. Using the momentum, it snaps its jaws wide open, lunging straight for Gun-Gun's throat. If those fangs connect, Gun-Gun is dead meat. And right in that life or death split second, something incredible happens. Over in the corner, the dying old monkey's cage suddenly explodes with a blinding golden light. He violently shoots up to his feet. His rotting skin heals right before everyone's eyes. The dead flesh peels away, replaced by a radiant, silky, golden coat of new fur. Those once cloudy, dying eyes suddenly turn crystal clear and profoundly deep, brimming with spirit. There's even a quiet calmness to them, like he's seen through the secrets of the world. He just stands there silently, and an indescribable aura of a true Grandmaster radiates from him. Every single eye snaps towards the cage. Wang Tianxiang is absolutely dumbfounded. The sheer greed in his eyes is practically burning like hellfire. He thought the panda was the only mutant, but now, even a half-dead old monkey can evolve right on the spot. This zoo doesn't just have a spirit vein, it's an absolute goldmine, but the one who actually figures out the truth first isn't him, it's He Sha. The savage glint in the mutant dog's eyes suddenly sharpens. It realizes something terrifying. Gun Gun and the old monkey's evolutions, they both trace back to the exact same source. So, in the very next second, it ruthlessly abandons Gun Gun. It wildly changes direction, its muscles exploding with power. Its massive body launches straight at you like a black cannonball. Its true target was never the thick-skinned panda. It's you, the real mastermind behind all this. And right at this moment, your mind has just snapped back to your body. You're still crouching right in front of the old monkey's cage, your eyes barely even open. He Sha's razor-sharp fangs are inches away from your throat, less than half a meter. The shadow of death instantly swallows you whole. The foul stench of death slams right into your face. That monstrous mutant bulldog, He Sha, lunges straight for your jugular with its massive jaws wide open. It's disgusting, bloody drool is practically splattering across your face. Everyone is dead sure you're finished. Wang Tianxiang even flashes this sick, utterly smug smile of pure cruelty. But somehow, you just stay there, eyes shut tight, crouching completely motionless in front of the cage. Like you don't even know the meaning of the word fear, and just 1,000th of a second before He Sha's fangs rip your throat out. A blinding flash of golden light erupts. No one can even see what it is. Your vision blurred for a split second, and a tiny, ghostly figure suddenly materialized right in front of you. It was the old golden snub-nosed monkey that had just finished mutating. But what was even crazier was that it was now wearing a perfectly fitted, mini cyan Taoist robe. And in its paw, it was steadily holding a tiny purple clay teacup. Steam rose from it, filling the air with the rich scent of tea. Its monkey face was completely unbothered, looking exactly like a transcendent master. It tilted its head, watching the black fiend lunging right at it. Its eyes even showed a hint of human-like confusion. The black fiend clearly froze for a second. When masters clash, victory and defeat are often decided in a single split second. The very next second, the golden monkey shifted its feet. Its body glided away as light as a feather, practically using some legendary evasive footwork. The black fiend bit nothing but air. Its massive momentum sent it stumbling forward for several steps, almost crashing straight into the cage, and right at that exact moment, the golden monkey gracefully spun around and leapt into a perfect backflip. With a slight flick of its wrist, the boiling hot tea in the cup shot out like a thin, sharp stream of water. It flew over the crowd with deadly precision, blasting straight at Wang Tianxiang in the back. Splash! Every single drop of that scorching hot tea splashed right onto Wang Tianxiang's face. The entire room went dead silent. Exactly 0.1 seconds later, Wang Tianxiang violently ripped off his glasses. He clutched his face and let out a blood-curdling scream like a slaughtered pig, rolling all over the floor in agony. His normally well-groomed face instantly turned violently red and started blistering. Paired with his expensive suit, it looked ridiculously pathetic. The nearly 100 bodyguards in black were absolutely dumbfounded. They didn't even know who to point their stun batons at. A panda that knows Tai Chi? A monkey that splashes hot tea? What the hell kind of zoo was this? And right in the middle of this eerie, dead silence, you finally opened your eyes, taking your sweet time. You let out a long yawn and gave a big, satisfying stretch. Looking like you had just woken up from a nap. Then, you glanced at Wang Tianxiang rolling on the floor, and then at the golden monkey, who had landed perfectly and was casually wiping its teacup. You nodded in satisfaction. Not bad at all. You gave its head a gentle pat. From now on, I'll call you Elder Son. Whenever we have guests over, make sure to serve them some tea. The golden monkey immediately let out 2 happy squeaks, and obediently hopped onto your shoulder. Looking every bit like an enlightened master monkey. But this exact moment made Wang Tianxiang completely lose his mind. Getting a cup of hot tea splashed in the face by a monkey? For a guy like him, that was even more humiliating than getting stabbed. His face bright red, clutching his burning, scalded cheeks. He frantically yanked out a custom silver whistle, shoved it into his mouth, and blew as hard as he could. A sharp, ear-piercing ultrasonic wave instantly rippled through the air. That was his absolute last resort for controlling the Black Fiend. It was a command to violently trigger the serum in its body, forcing it into its ultimate berserk state. However, the result completely backfired. The moment it heard the whistle, the Black Fiend violently convulsed, followed by a terrifying, agonizing howl. Its body began to inflate like a wildly overpumped balloon, expanding out of control. Its muscles tore apart and brutally stitched back together. Jagged bone spikes continuously tore right through its fur. In just a few short seconds, it ballooned from the size of a bulldog to nearly 3 meters tall. It was as massive as a small truck, but the most horrifying part was, the flesh around its neck suddenly ripped wide open. And it brutally sprouted a second, terrifying head, a massive, two-headed hound. Fully formed, Wang Tianshang froze for a split second. Then he went completely insane, screaming at the Black Fiend to attack you all. Too bad, the very next second, the two-headed monster slowly turned its head. And one of its massive heads locked its eyes right onto Wang Tianshang himself. There wasn't a shred of obedience left in its eyes, only a pure, primal urge to destroy. It turned on its master. The closest bodyguard didn't even have time to react, before it clamped its jaws right over his upper body. With a sickening crunch, it was a brutal, crushing blow. His energy shattered entirely. His agonizing screams were cut short as he was instantly ripped to shreds, spilling everywhere. The rest of the bodyguards lost their minds. They shrieked in terror and scattered like rats. The giant two-headed hound stomped an SUV flat, then casually ripped a massive chunk out of a bulldozer's bucket. The entire zoo was instantly turned into a living hell. And right at that moment, the system in your head triggered a blaring red alert for the very first time. Warning, detected a level 30 mutated plague demon. The two-headed blood-crazed beast. The demon has broken out of the mental infection zone and is beginning to manifest in reality. Danger level, extremely lethal. Host must evacuate immediately, but you just frowned in absolute disgust. Gun, covered in wounds, stood firmly in front of you. Even though his legs were shaking uncontrollably, he still bravely took up a Tai Chi defensive stance. Elder Son, standing on your shoulder, looked more serious than he ever had before. In the distance, the bodyguards, the influencers, Wang Tianshang, everyone was running for their lives. But you just raised a hand and casually picked your ear, and muttered lazily, "You're too damn loud." The next second, you actually stepped right past Gun, and walked completely alone straight toward that colossal two-headed beast. 1 step, 2 steps, everyone was dumbfounded. That was a monster that could bite through solid steel, and crush cars like tin cans. Yet you were strolling up to it like you were taking a walk in the park. The giant beast was obviously enraged by this. Both of its heads let out a deafening roar, and lunged its jaws viciously right at you. A bite like that, forget a human body, it would snap a solid steel plate cleanly in half. And then, you raised your right hand, so incredibly casually, with zero effort. You pressed your palm flat against its incoming skull. Bang! It was like a bullet train crashing headfirst into an ancient, immovable mountain. A massive shockwave blasted outward, kicking up huge clouds of dust and sending jagged rocks flying everywhere. The monstrous beast was stopped dead in midair by your single hand. It couldn't move forward even a fraction of an inch, but the ground beneath your feet couldn't handle the sheer kinetic recoil, shattering inch by inch into a massive spiderweb of cracks. The entire zoo fell dead silent. Wang Tianshang stared in absolute disbelief. His jaw dropped straight to the floor, but he couldn't squeeze out a single word. Suppressed with a single hand, and the very second your palm made contact with the beast, your consciousness was instantly yanked back into the mental infection zone. Only this time, it wasn't just some ordinary cave. It was a genuine, dark red purgatory. Beneath your feet flowed a river of toxic, molten magma, and hanging in the sky was a rotting, pus-dripping black sun, and right in the center of this hellscape, stood that two-headed hellhound, looking even more massive and horrifying than it did in the real world. Staring right at you with its 4 eyes burning with black fire. This is the true form of the two-headed blood-mad plague demon. But strangely enough, you didn't attack immediately. Instead, you directly opened the system shop. Current points, 1,250. You scrolled all the way to the skill section and spotted something. Ancient martial art, the Great Compassion Wind Tearing Hand. A fragmented copy. Exchange price, 1,000 points. This is it. As soon as you got your hands on the skill book, you didn't even look at it. You just raised your hand and crushed it. In an instant, countless golden characters and power flow diagrams rushed madly into your mind. It was as if your hands had endured thousands of grueling training sessions in a split second. Every single muscle, every tiny method of unleashing power became crystal clear. But the two-headed hellhound in front of you obviously wasn't going to wait for you to adapt. Both of its heads opened their mouths at the same time, blasting out two intersecting streams of highly toxic, magma-like dragon breath. It completely sealed off all your escape routes, but you had absolutely no intention of dodging. You raised both hands, striking an extremely bizarre starting stance, and muttered softly, "Great compassion, wind-tearing hand." The very next second, your figure almost vanished from where you stood. Facing those two streams of dragon breath that could melt solid steel, you didn't retreat. You charged right in. Your hands turned into afterimages completely invisible to the naked eye. With two loud ripping sounds, you forcibly tore the two streams of dragon breath right down the middle. The violent toxic flames blasted past both sides of your body, plowing a deep trench into the ground behind you, while you yourself didn't even get a single speck on the edge of your clothes. The two-headed hellhound's pupils shrank drastically. Just as it tried to back away, you were already right in front of its face. Too slow. Those words were the very last critique it would ever hear. Both of your hands shot out, one hand grabbing each head. The muscles in your arms instantly bulged, veins popping out like coiled dragons and snakes. Immediately after, your arms violently ripped outward to the sides. Rip. A sickening, bone-cracking tear that would make anyone's scalp tingle echoed throughout the entire mental purgatory. That terrifyingly oppressive level 32-headed hellhound was actually torn apart by you, from head to tail. Ripped completely in half alive, black demonic aura sprayed into the sky like a fountain, only to completely evaporate into nothingness in midair. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully purifying the level 30 mutated plague-type demon, the two-headed blood-mad plague demon. Meanwhile, in reality, barely a single second had passed. Under the absolutely horrified gazes of Wang Tianshang and the others, the two-headed behemoth that you were pinning down with one hand, which had just been roaring and struggling, suddenly convulsed. And then crashed to the ground, completely paralyzed. The bone spikes on its body retracted back into its flesh at a visible speed. Its massive, swollen body rapidly shrank down, and the scarlet glow in its two heads quickly faded away. A few seconds later, it actually reverted back to the size of a normal bulldog. What was even more absurd was that it shook its head, looked at the hand pinning it down, and instead of being aggressive, it carefully stuck out its tongue and gently licked the back of your hand. Then, the whole dog just threw itself down flat on the ground, whimpering softly just like a little lapdog, and started frantically licking the top of your shoes, looking so desperate to please you that it seemed ready to wag its tail right off. The entire area fell dead silent. 1 second ago, it was a world-destroying, two-headed berserk beast. And the very next second, it became a tail-wagging, fawning lapdog. Wang Tianshang completely failed to handle this massive shock. His eyes rolled back into his head, and he fainted from sheer terror right on the spot. The rest of the bodyguards couldn't even care less about their boss anymore, scrambling and crawling as they bolted out of the zoo, terrified that being even a step too slow would leave them trapped in this monster's den. You looked down at your soaking wet shoes in pure disgust, casually kicking the dog in the head. Get out of the way. Not only was it not mad, but it actually wagged its tail even more excitedly. It obediently squatted to the side, and you casually gave it a name. Your name is Height C. From now on, you're on gate duty. Right at that moment, the system rewards finally came through. For your first purification of a level 30 mutated demon, you are rewarded with an epic tier formula, the Universal Pure All Antibody. The Basic Edition, plus 5,000 points. Mental feedback ratio has increased to 15%. You could feel the surging power rising inside your body once again. And your mood finally improved a bit. But as luck would have it, you didn't even notice that on a small hill a few hundred meters outside the zoo, there was an outdoor streamer holding up a selfie stick. A panda doing tai chi, a monkey splashing tea, and a zoo director pinning down a two-headed monster with just one hand. That viral video absolutely broke the internet that very night. Overnight, everything completely turned upside down. Early the next morning, You were rudely awakened by an earth-shattering roar of noise from outside. As you sat up from your rocking chair, elder son on your shoulder had already thoughtfully handed you a cup of hot tea. But outside the zoo gates, it was rowdier than a wet market. People were screaming to see the Tai Chi panda, others were begging to meet the demon-slaying director, and one streamer even offered 100,000 right on the spot. Just to pet the tea-brewing monkey brother. You pulled out your phone to take a look, and sitting right at the #1 spot on the trending list was the strongest deadbeat zoo director in history and his monster army. You clicked on it, and it was exactly the highlight reel from yesterday's live stream. $26 plus, 326.1K under the high-def lens, 28 plus, 326.1K gun single strike. 23 plus, 326.1K parting the wild horse's mane. 25 plus, 326.1K sending the thugs flying. 326.1K elder son using nimble footwork to dodge the attack, then casually splashing a cup of hot tea right in their faces. And that shot of you pinning down the two-headed giant beast with just one hand, forcefully making it bow to you, was even turned into a looping GIF. The comment section had completely blown up. What's even crazier was that the tourists had absolutely packed the zoo's entrance to the bursting point. You had originally just casually bumped the ticket price up to $100 a pop, but to your surprise, not only did no one complain about the price, it actually got more crowded the higher it went. 0. Text messages kept popping up on your phone one after another. 100,000 deposited, 200,000 deposited, 300,000, the numbers just kept soaring. You stayed perfectly silent for a moment, then decisively turned off the notification sound. Money is just a number. It's way more comfortable just lying down. In the days that followed, the zoo took on a bizarre yet strangely harmonious atmosphere. Tourists were restricted to the main pathways, every single one of them holding up their phones to film from a distance. Gun became the literal captain of security. If anyone dared to hop the fence for a sneak shot, he would accurately toss them right back out of the park like throwing a sandbag. Elder son, meanwhile, occupied the high branches of a tree, calmly brewing tea while keeping up the intimidating aura of a monkey grandmaster. Haitsi guarded the main gate, his dog eyes working way better than any security camera. Any troublemaker looking to cause a scene would instantly get stared down by him until their scalp went completely numb. But wouldn't you know it, after the zoo blew up in popularity, it also brought along a brand new problem. Gun's appetite had literally doubled. Elder son's taste for fruit and tea is getting pickier by the day, and Haitsi? That guy can easily scarf down half a cow in a single meal. You take a quick look at the inventory, and finally resign yourself to heading down the mountain. You make a trip to the slaughterhouse on the outskirts of town to stock up on meat. And it's exactly there that you stumble upon a brand new stroke of luck, while old Lee, the butcher, is busy chopping up some pork belly for you. You accidentally catch a glimpse of an iron cage in the corner. Inside lies a free-range dirt pig, so skinny it's basically skin and bones. It looks incredibly sick and absolutely filthy. It looks like it's already got one foot in the grave. But the very second your eyes land on it, your system suddenly goes crazy. Warning, super rare ancient gene carrier detected. Target, Changbai Mountain Black Gold Pig. Bloodline status, degraded, hidden within its genetic sequence, are the Devourer and Evolution talents. It's the absolute perfect base body for a top-tier combat spirit beast. Your eyes instantly light up. Old Lee tells you it's a sick pig, nothing but skin and bones. Says it's completely useless to keep, and he was just about to toss it out. A few vendors nearby start chiming in, joking that you couldn't even pay someone to take that thing off your hands. But you don't even hesitate, you just pull out your cash. Not only do you buy it, but you even slap an extra $500 on top. You tell old Lee to load the pig up and deliver it straight to the zoo. Everyone there thinks you've completely lost your mind. But guess what? The moment that pig is carried into the zoo's backyard, the mutation begins. The second it breathes in that faint trace of spiritual energy lingering in the air, the dormant ancient bloodline inside it absolutely explodes. Its scrawny little body starts convulsing violently. Blood-red veins rapidly crawl all over its skin. The sheer heat erupting from its body is so intense, it actually warps the air around it. The grass and plants on the ground instantly scorch yellow and wither away. Gun and Elder Son are forced to back up, step after step. The system screams out a piercing alarm, louder than ever before. Critical warning, severe rejection between ancient genes and spiritual energy. Energy levels critical, target is about to self-destruct. You don't hesitate for a single second. Pushing right through the scorching heat wave, you slam your hands down onto the pig's head. Instantly, your consciousness is violently yanked into the spiritual realm. And this time, you find yourself floating in a chaotic nebula made of fractured DNA helixes. Shattered genetic chains are swirling all around you. And right in the center, coiling like a massive beast, is a monstrosity formed from countless twisted genes. A level 20 disease demon. The Gene Shredder. You don't hold back, you charge right in and throw a massive punch. But wait, the damn thing is as soft as jelly. Your fist sinks right in, and all your raw power is instantly absorbed, layer by layer. Worse yet, it whips out countless genetic tentacles and blasts you flying. You smash backwards so hard, the entire space shudders. That's when it hits you. This fight? It's totally different from anything you've faced before. Brute force alone isn't gonna cut it this time. But right then, in that split second you were sent flying. You spot a tiny, blood-red speck of light, no bigger than a grain of rice, deep inside the monster's core. That's it, that's the real anchor, so that's where you're hiding. You watch as the Gene Shredder morphs into a massive net, lunging straight for you. Screw this, you drop the finesse, and straight up manifest a baseball bat right there in the spiritual realm. If one bat can't smash through, bring on the second. Second bat's not enough? Here comes the third. You go absolutely savage, violently smashing through layer after layer of its genetic defenses. You literally beat a path straight to the core. The exact second its defenses crack wide open. You flash forward in a blur. You unleash the great compassion wind-tearing hand. Your hands strike like blades, shattering the genetic chains along the way, and plunging flawlessly into its very core. You snatch that crimson speck of light right into your palm. Shatter. With a sharp crack, the core explodes. The entire genetic nebula collapses in an instant. The gene terror dissolves into a shower of sparkling light right before your eyes. Congratulations, host, you have successfully purified the level 20 genetic mutation pathogen, the gene terror. For completing your first genetic surgery, you are rewarded with a bonus gold chest. You pop the chest open and scored 2 incredible items. An epic tier awakening pill, and a special talent, Devour, both ready to be equipped, as your consciousness snaps back to reality. That sick, swollen pig has finally calmed down, but it's still so weak, it looks like it could drop dead at any second. Wasting no time, you shove the awakening pill straight into its mouth. The pill melts instantly, and then, that scrawny, skin and bones pig actually starts regaining its color right before your eyes. Its dull coat turns glossy and smooth, and its eyes go from cloudy and lifeless to clear and sharp. But the craziest part? Once it finally stands back up, it actually opens its mouth and talks. Thank you, director. I owe you my life. Hearing that perfect, crystal clear English come out of a pig, you nearly do a spit take with your tea. Gun and elder son are just staring at it, completely dumbfounded. I mean, who would have thought? A pig, speaking like a human. You force yourself to keep a straight face, think for a second, and casually give him a new name, second brother. This newly minted intellectual pig accepts the name right away. He even bows, cupping his hooves together like a scholar from the old days to thank you. Remembering the devoured talent from the system, you decide to have him show off his skills on the spot. Second brother waddles over to a pile of scrap metal, leftovers from Black Fiend's destruction, and takes a massive breath. The very next second, over half a ton of steel and concrete actually shrinks down into a streak of light. And he swallows it in one single gulp. After finishing his snack, he lets out a loud burp, and his energy aura actually grows a tiny bit stronger. Your eyes instantly light up. A guy who can eat trash, swallow up scrap materials, and level himself up while doing it? Isn't this the ultimate, natural-born janitor? So, you immediately dig a brand new broom out of the supply closet and shove it right into second brother's hooves. Giving his shoulder a heavy pat, you tell him, go on. Clean up all the trash the tourists left behind. And remember, sort your recyclables. Second brother looks down at the broom, then looks back up at you. His newly awakened, intelligent pig eyes are practically screaming. Did I reincarnate into the wrong body for this? Too bad, the director's word is law. Very quickly, the tourists are treated to a sight they will never, ever forget. A black pig, walking upright on its hind legs, gripping a broom with its front hooves, and expertly sweeping the park. If anyone dares to toss a boba cup on the ground, he completely stops, locking onto them with a stare full of deep wisdom and absolute disgust. Then, he silently sweeps the trash into his dustpan. The livestream and trending topics completely blow up once again. The title of Magical Zoo? Yeah, that's officially set in stone now. Later that night, as you head back to your cabin, I realized that my laggy old laptop was actually turned on. Second brother was sitting right there in front of the screen, his hooves typing away like crazy on the keyboard, and right there on the screen was a dark web forum about the revival of spiritual energy. He reported with a totally straight face, saying he was gathering intel on global spiritual anomalies, biological mutations, and newly awakened espers, all to make things easier for you, so you could slack off in peace. At that very moment, you finally realized, that wasn't just a pig, that was a strategic level mastermind. And so, your life instantly slipped into the ultimate lazy bum mode you had always dreamed of. Gun massaging your legs, elder son brewing the tea, Blackie guarding the door, and second brother sweeping the floor while analyzing global intel. All you had to do was lie back in your rocking chair, sip your tea, count your cash, and casually check how many more viral trends your zoo had sparked. Sadly, this peaceful life didn't last long. Early the very next morning, a deep, synchronized roar of engines suddenly echoed outside the zoo. You glanced up, only to see exactly 8 pitch-black, gleaming new Rolls-Royce Phantoms. They formed a ridiculously intimidating motorcade, pulling up grandly right at the main gate, completely blocking off the entire street. The sheer presence of it forced the queuing tourists and influencers to stumble backward. A second later, the rear door of the lead car slowly swung open. A foot clad in a limited edition crystal heel stepped out first. Right after that, a young woman stepped out. She was wearing a custom white Chanel suit, rocking a sleek short bob, looking absolutely stunning but completely icy. She was wearing oversized sunglasses, so you couldn't see her whole face, but that innate arrogance and overwhelming aura spread instantly like a freezing winter chill. And right behind her, 4 massive, hulking bodyguards were hauling a gigantic iron cage together. The outside of that cage was actually completely encased in a thick layer of solid ice. Bone-chilling mist was constantly seeping out of it, as if whatever was locked inside wasn't just some normal animal, but a demonic beast of absolute frost from the deepest depths of the underworld. The very air around the zoo's entrance felt suffocated by the exhaust of those 8 Rolls-Royce Phantoms. As the car door opened, the woman in the custom white suit, whose aura was as cold as ice, stepped out slowly. She took off her sunglasses, revealing a breathtaking but completely emotionless face. Her sharp, elegant eyes swept over the rundown zoo, not even bothering to hide her disgust and sheer contempt. "Are you the director of this place?" Her voice was freezing cold, carrying the tone of someone used to barking orders. "But honestly, you were just lying there in your rocking chair, totally annoyed by all this racket. You couldn't even be bothered to open your eyes. You just gave a lazy, muffled grunt through your nose." One of the bodyguards behind her immediately stepped up, his voice booming like a bell. "This is Miss Lin Ruoshui of the Lin Group, the only daughter of Mr. Lin Kangai, the richest man in Zhangcheng." You let out another grunt, and just straight up rolled over, turning your back to them like you were ready to go right back to sleep. The entire place went so dead silent you could hear a pin drop. I mean, who was Lin Ruoshui? She was the absolute golden girl of Zhangcheng, a woman whose word was absolute law. No one had ever dared to treat her like this. Yet here you were, not just ignoring her, but completely refusing to give her an ounce of respect. She took a deep, sharp breath, forcefully swallowing her anger. She pulled a checkbook out of her designer handbag, pinched a check between 2 fingers, and shoved it toward you. 10 million. Cure him. Her eyes fell on the massive iron cage behind her. The cage was covered in a thick layer of ice, radiating a bone-chilling cold. It was so cold that even the ground was frosted over. The bodyguards carrying the cage had purple lips, shivering uncontrollably. The surrounding tourists and influencers instantly gasped in shock. 10 million. She just blurted it out like it was nothing. But, you still didn't move a muscle. You just lazily raised a hand, and pointed to the side. Over there, second brother was standing completely upright on his hind legs, holding a broom in his left hoof, and a dustpan in his right. He was meticulously sweeping up a soda can dropped by a tourist, looking exactly like a seasoned street cleaner. "Go get in line," you said with a slow drawl. "Can't you see second brother is sweeping? If you want something, make an appointment with him first." Lin Ruoshui, the bodyguards, even the crowd was completely speechless. Telling the only daughter of Zhang City's richest man to make an appointment with a sweeping pig? Lin Ruoshui had never been insulted like this in her entire life. Behind her, a hot-tempered bodyguard instantly snapped. He clenched his fists and tried to lunge forward. But right at that moment, Gun, the panda who had been dozing by the door, slowly lifted his head, and just gave him a calm look. There was no roaring, no killing intent at all, but the burly man looked like he had just been drenched in a bucket of ice water. All the color instantly drained from his face. A cold sweat broke out. In those innocent-looking panda eyes, he seemed to see mountains of corpses and seas of blood. He saw armies of steel being crushed, and a two-headed behemoth forced into submission. It was a primordial fear, striking at his very soul. "Stand down," Lin Ruoshui barked out the order, though her heart was already pounding like a raging storm. She knew this zoo was bizarre, but she never expected that a single glance from Gun could terrify her elite ex-special forces bodyguard like this. She forced herself to calm down, and looked back at you. Her tone was finally stripped of its arrogance. "Director Chen, I mean no harm. Inside this cage is a mutated Siberian tiger cub. We call him Frost King. He's been infected with a completely unknown virus. The experts are calling it the Netherfrost toxin. The top vets and biologists in the city, no, the entire country, are completely helpless against it. We can only watch helplessly as his life force is slowly eaten away." As she finished speaking, there was an unmistakable hint of desperation creeping into her icy voice. "He's dying. You are his absolute last hope. Honestly, you still didn't want to get involved. You weren't exactly strapped for cash. You couldn't care less about power, and you absolutely loathed trouble." But right at that moment, just as you were about to wave them away, a faint, heartbreakingly defiant whimper came from inside the cage. It was so quiet, yet it pierced your heart like a needle. You never could stand hearing a sound like that, and so, you finally sat up from your rocking chair, looking straight at that chilling ice cage for the first time. Through the thick layers of ice, you could almost see a pair of icy blue eyes. Eyes that held zero despair, only a fierce, burning desperation to survive. "I'll take the money." You stood up, walked right over to Lin Ruoshui, and snatched the $10 million check straight out of her stiff fingers. You casually slip it into your pocket, the movement as natural as grabbing a napkin. A flicker of joy barely crosses Lin Ruozu's eyes before you immediately drop another bombshell. "But, once it's cured, this tiger belongs to me." Lin Ruozu's pupils instantly contract in shock. This Frost King is a mutated white tiger cub she smuggled in through secret overseas channels for an astronomical price. She's poured countless resources into it, and now you have the nerve to just demand it? In your dreams, she blurts out furiously. Not dreaming, you just shrug, looking completely unfazed, then show yourself out. Without another word, you turn and walk away, not hesitating for a single second. Lin Ruoshui grits her teeth. Logic tells her you're just trying to fleece her. But the fading pulse of life inside the cage leaves her completely cornered. She falls silent for a few seconds, before finally letting out a cold laugh. "Fine, I'll take that bet. If you can actually cure it, the Frost King is yours. But if you fail, or if anything happens to it, this zoo of yours, and you yourself, will both belong to me. You'll be my slave for the rest of your life. Deal?" You don't hesitate for even a single second. You just nod. The very next second, you walk right up to the ice cage, completely ignoring the gasps from the bodyguards around you. You raise your hand and press it against the thick layer of ice. System, let's get to work. The exact moment your palm touches the ice, the deep blue frost instantly comes alive, slithering frantically up your arm like a venomous snake. In the blink of an eye, your entire right arm is completely encased in solid ice. And the freezing chill is shooting straight for your heart. A cold, knowing smirk instantly creeps onto Lin Ruozu's lips. He can't even handle a single touch, let alone cure it. She has this bet in the bag, yet, there isn't a single trace of pain on your face. You just look mildly annoyed. The next second, the real world rapidly drains of color, and your consciousness is yanked into the spiritual core of the disease. Before your eyes lies an endless, freezing tundra. Beneath the ash-gray sky, the blizzard howls like a storm of knives. Right in the center of the wasteland stands a towering 5-meter-tall frost giant, its entire body forged from ancient glacial ice. Jagged ice horns crown its head, and ghostly blue flames burn intensely in its empty eye sockets. Just by standing there, it causes the very space around it to freeze and shatter. Level 35 Elemental Mutated Pathogen, the Nether Frost Toxin. It raises a finger, and an invisible, absolute zero domain instantly bursts outward. Your spiritual body feels like it's been frozen in solid concrete. Your movements, your thoughts, even your very life force, are rapidly grinding to a halt. If it were anyone else, they'd be completely dead by now. But you just flash a wicked grin. All this dramatic buildup, just for a bad cold? You crack your stiff neck. The very next second, you push the great compassion wind-tearing hand to its absolute limit. No flashy moves, no hesitation. Instead, you plant your feet and throw wild punches at an absolutely insane speed. 10 punches a second. Your fists scrape violently against the heavy air, the sheer friction turning your knuckles a glowing red. They heat up, burning hotter and hotter until they ignite into a blinding, white-hot glow. The frost giant across from you senses something is wrong. It opens its jaws and blasts a freezing death ray right at you. It freezes the very air in its path. But you don't even flinch. Your fists, radiating a terrifying heat, smash right through it, violently tearing the freeze beam apart down the middle. Melt down to nothing. In the very next second, you're already right in the frost giant's face. Your white-hot fists slam into its body like a brutal, fiery hurricane. With every single strike, massive chunks of solid ice instantly vaporize. Thick white steam hisses into the air as the giant's massive body is forced back, punch after punch. It roars in fury, but it simply cannot keep up with your insane speed. Taking it to the next level, you simply drop low, grab onto its massive legs, and put your entire back into it. Go down. The 5-meter-tall frost giant is brutally slammed to the ground by your textbook takedown. The entire frozen wasteland quakes. You immediately leap up and mount its chest, raising your blazing fists high. You bring them down hard. Physical fever reduction. Friction creates heat. Conservation of energy. Every shout is punctuated by another devastating hammer blow. Under your blazing strikes, the frost giant's head rapidly melts away, like an ice cube tossed straight into a roaring furnace. The ghostly blue flames in its eyes shift, from blinding rage to sheer terror. And finally, they extinguish completely. As your very last punch lands, the frost giant shatters into a million pieces. The freezing aura completely dissipates. Congratulations, host, you have successfully purified the level 35 elemental mutant pathogen, Nether Frostbane. First elemental purification complete. Awarding, Platinum Tier Chest. The chest springs open, revealing 2 distinct items. The first is an incredibly gorgeous God Tier mount saddle. It grants a telepathic bond with absolutely any mount, massively boosting its speed and recovery, and even granting the ability to ride the wind. The second item is the Frost Resistance Talent. Once absorbed, it grants permanent immunity to almost all cold damage and freezing debuffs. You gladly pocket them both. Meanwhile, back in reality, only a few short seconds have actually passed. Lin Ruoshui is still standing there, eagerly waiting for you to suffer, when suddenly, from the thick layer of ice on your arm, comes a sharp crack, and then, the freezing ice doesn't just melt. Instead, it's brutally shattered by a terrifying force erupting from the inside out. It completely fractures, exploding into a cloud of glittering ice crystals. Your arm is perfectly intact. Not a single scratch. The cruel smirk on Lin Ruozu's face instantly freezes. Now, it is my turn, you say coolly. But just as you turn your eyes toward the ice cage, something shifts. A frantic, deafening wave of cracking sounds erupts from inside the cage. The very next second, the entire ice cage, along with the reinforced steel bars, is violently blown apart from the inside out. Countless shards of ice and twisted metal blast in every direction. An ancient, domineering aura of a true king, far more terrifying than that cold poison, violently erupts. The 4 bodyguards instantly dive in front of Lin Ruoshui to shield her, but it's completely useless. The terrifying aura of the Beast King seemed to bypass physical barriers entirely, crushing directly down on their souls. In just a split second, the knees of all 4 battle-hardened veteran bodyguards gave out. They were forced to their knees, shaking uncontrollably like leaves in the wind. Right after that, a majestic tiger, snow white from head to tail. Over 4 meters long and nearly 1.5 meters tall at the shoulder. Stepped slowly out of the shattered cage. It was visibly larger than before. Its fur was whiter than snow, and right on its forehead, a pitch black character for king, a mark that commanded absolute terror. Its vivid blue eyes looked like 2 icy sapphires, burning with a suffocating, majestic power. The nether cold toxin hadn't frozen it at all. Instead, it was as if the poison had purified its very bloodline, triggering a true evolution into the Frost King. Roar, a deafening tiger roar exploded like thunder. The shockwave blasted away all the shattered ice and dust on the ground. The tourists and influencers nearby felt their eardrums ringing, some even collapsing to the ground in pure terror. The bodyguards who were already on their knees had it even worse. One of them literally passed out from the sheer fright. Lin Ruoshui was finally terrified. She thought that in the very next second, this unleashed, peerless beast would turn the place into an absolute bloodbath. But oddly enough, the Frost King couldn't even be bothered to look at her. After a single, icy glance, it locked its gaze entirely on you. And then, as the entire crowd watched in absolute disbelief, this majestic white tiger, capable of routing an entire army, lost every ounce of coldness and ferocity in its eyes. Instead, it was replaced by an almost flattering sense of joy and affection. It retracted its razor-sharp claws, and with the elegant strides of a giant house cat, trotted right up to you. It lowered its noble head, and began gently nudging your pant leg with its massive, boulder-sized head. It even started making a deep, satisfied purring sound from its throat. Where was the fearsome Tiger King now? This was clearly just an oversized, clingy kitten. The entire crowd was left dead silent. You patted its head with a look of mild annoyance. Alright, stop rubbing against me. You're getting drool all over my pants. As you said that, you casually slapped the god-tier riding saddle you just got right onto its back. The moment the saddle touched the tiger's back, it automatically adjusted to fit, and with a flash of light, melded seamlessly into its fur. You tested the feel of it and nodded in satisfaction. With a quick leap, you flipped up and lay right down on its broad back, resting your hands behind your head. Not bad at all. A purely natural, genuine leather sofa. Even comes with built-in heating. From now on, I'll call you Big White. Big White immediately purred even louder, shifting its massive body, just to make you more comfortable. Lin Ruoshui was completely dumbfounded. She stared blankly at the man lounging on the back of the King of Beasts. For the first time in her life, the pride and worldview she had built over more than 20 years were instantly shattered into a million pieces. About that bet, I won. You turned your head and shot her a casual glance. 10 million. Make sure it hits my account. Oh, and this sofa right here is mine now. Oh okay. Lin Ruoshui replied almost on pure instinct, hurriedly pulling out her phone to make the transfer. The crisp notification tone of the deposit rang out. She looked up at you. A very faint blush crept onto her face without her even realizing it. After a few seconds of silence, she did something entirely out of character and humbled herself, asking softly, "Director Chen, could I possibly get your contact info?" With those 10 million, the zoo quickly began an unprecedented, massive renovation. The broken gate was swapped out for massive red sandalwood doors. Elder Son personally carved out the bold words, "Salted Fish Retirement Home." The dirt paths were paved with temperature-controlled jade slabs, and your rocking chair was upgraded to a solid block of premium agarwood. They even built a spiritual hot spring right next to it. Gun was in charge of boiling the water, while Elder Son took care of handing out the towels. A few days later, the early autumn sun felt absolutely perfect. You were lying there completely shirtless, soaking up the rays while comfortably sprawled across Big White's warm, fluffy belly. Elder Son, wearing his reading glasses, sat nearby reading ancient texts out loud to you. Meanwhile, Gun was just a few steps away, huffing and puffing as he used the brand new blender to make bamboo shoot juice. The entire zoo was steeped in a delightfully decadent, delightfully lazy, yet infuriatingly envy-inducing vibe. However, the good times didn't last long. Second brother came sprinting in, clutching that old laptop he'd modified to rival a supercomputer. He was running for his life on his hind legs, his expression more serious than you had ever seen it. "Director, sir, emergency intel, what's the rush? You didn't even bother to open your eyes." If the sky falls, Gun can just hold it up. Gun, still holding the blender, just blinked with a completely innocent face. A woo? But as luck would have it, second brother wasn't joking this time. He shoved the laptop screen right in your face and shouted in a panic. The national network was hit by an unknown signal 3 minutes ago. It's practically paralyzed. Every single news channel has been hijacked with the exact same emergency broadcast. And almost the second he finished speaking, the massive new TV they just set up in the park violently flickered. All the regular shows were instantly cut off. On the screen, a massive, hyper-futuristic zoo was completely engulfed in roaring flames. Hundreds of heavy-duty alloy cages had been ripped to shreds. Thousands of massive, mutated beasts with glowing blood-red eyes were pouring out of the compound like a tidal wave. They were tearing straight toward the downtown city center. The military barricades, made up of literal tanks and armored vehicles, might as well have been made of wet paper. They were being shredded, layer by layer. In the top left corner of the screen, bold, blood-red text was flashing like crazy. Code Red Emergency. Class S Spiritual Mutation Outbreak in Linhai City. Second brother rapidly fired off his report. The core is an unknown elemental strain called the Blood Frenzy Virus. It is incredibly contagious and triggers an indiscriminate, violent evolution in all living creatures. Linhai City. It's not gonna hold out much longer. You went quiet for a second, then just rolled over. Linhai City was hundreds of kilometers away from Zhong City. Way too far. What did that have to do with you? Literally the only thing you cared about right now was whether or not the grape's elder son was feeding you had been properly chilled. But of course, the very next second, the deafening roar of heavy engines ripped through the sky above the zoo. 3 pitch-black attack helicopters, branded with military insignias, descended from the clouds. The rotors kicked up a massive storm, sending the freshly washed towels flying absolutely everywhere. The cabin doors slid open, and several high-ranking military officers, stars gleaming on their shoulders, quickly stepped out. The man leading the pack had a strong, square jaw and eyes as sharp as daggers. It was none other than Li Zhengguo, the supreme commander of the Zhongcheng War Zone. However, the very second they stepped into the zoo, they all froze in their tracks. Because the scene in front of them was just way too absurd. You were shirtless, lazily lounging on the white tiger's belly, while elder son, wearing glasses, fed you grapes. Gun was off to the side running a blender, and second brother was holding a laptop, staring at them with a pair of pig eyes that clearly said, "Spit it out if you have something to say." Li Zhengguo's brain practically short-circuited, but he was a man who had seen it all. Forcing down his shock, he quickly stepped forward and threw a crisp, standard military salute. "Director Chen, I am Li Zhengguo, commander of the Zhongcheng War Zone. The situation is critical, so I'll keep it brief. Linhai City has been hit by an S-class spiritual energy disaster. Millions of lives are on the line. On behalf of the War Zone, and the people of Linhai City, we are begging you to step in and help." After saying this absolute powerhouse, a man who could make all of Zhongcheng tremble, bowed deeply to you. All the generals behind him bowed in perfect unison as well. The air went terrifyingly quiet. You took your time chewing the grape in your mouth, swallowed it, and only then did you glance at them. "I'll pass." The words dropped so casually, yet they smashed into everyone's chests like a ton of bricks. Li Zhengguo's head snapped up. "Director Chen, this is about the lives of millions of people. It's too far." You replied with a completely straight face, "I get airsick." The generals were absolutely dumbfounded. Next to him, a young officer couldn't hold back his fury anymore. With bloodshot eyes, he stormed forward. "This is no time for jokes. Do you have any idea that every single minute we waste, hundreds of people are dying?" "Stand down," Li Zhengguo roared furiously, because he had already noticed Big White's ice blue, slitted eyes locking coldly onto the young officer. A split second later, a soul-freezing aura crushed down on them. The officer's face turned completely white, and he almost dropped to his knees right then and there. Li Zhengguo's heart sank to the bottom of his chest. He knew that playing the patriotism card or trying to guilt-trip you was utterly useless. So, gritting his teeth, he pulled out a red, encrypted phone, as if making a massive decision. He spoke in a gravelly voice, "If you agree to step in." That newly discovered a class spirit stone vein in Linhai City, the largest one in the country. "We'll give you half." A spirit stone vein? Those words finally sparked a glimmer of interest in your eyes. You remembered your spiritual hot spring pool. It really did need spirit stones to keep its energy up, making Gun constantly boil water, for it wasn't exactly a long-term solution. Alright, fine. Li Zhengguo and his men were instantly overjoyed. Fantastic, Director Chen, when do we head out? However, the next second, you just flopped right back onto Big White's back. You pointed a finger at Gun nearby, who had just downed a huge glass of bamboo shoot juice and was letting out a satisfied burp. I'm not going. Send Gun. The air froze once again. The ecstatic smiles on the generals' faces instantly vanished. Sending Gun to fight off the monster horde that's tearing the entire city apart? A young officer nearly lost it again, thinking you were just gambling with millions of lives. Li Zhengguo's face was dark as thunder. He gritted his teeth and demanded, Mr. Chen, I need an explanation, but you couldn't be bothered to explain. Instead, you just pulled out a solid red pill that radiated a mysterious aura, and flicked it with your finger. The pill arched through the air and landed perfectly right into Gun's mouth just as he was yawning. Gun chewed on it absently for a second, then swallowed it with a loud gulp. He smacked his lips in satisfaction, and then, he waddled over to the wall and lifted that pitch-black alloy bamboo stick with just one paw. The metal scraped against the floor with a heavy, grinding thud. That thing was incredibly heavy, yet Gun held it as easily as if it were just a regular piece of bamboo. With one paw holding the staff and the other resting behind his back, he strolled toward the helicopter with a slow, swaggering gait. He didn't carry himself like a panda at all. He looked more like a legendary general marching off to war. You just lazily called out, "Make it quick, don't be late for dinner." Gun nodded. Well, they had no choice. They were running out of time, so Li Zhengguo had to bite the bullet and take this massive gamble. Soon, 3 attack helicopters roared into the sky, carrying their panda head of security, speeding straight toward Linhai City. 10 minutes later, the airspace above Linhai City revealed a scene of absolute devastation. The comms channels were flooded with desperate cries for help. The streets below were a sea of fire and shredded armored vehicles. Down in the central plaza, the very last squad of 100 Marines was still fighting for their lives. They were backed against a giant statue by dozens of mutated lion tigers, each one the size of a small car. Every single beast had glowing, blood-red eyes, with jagged bone spikes tearing through their skin. Just looking at them was enough to make anyone's blood run cold. The pilot looked down through the cockpit window, his voice trembling in fear. "Command, we have arrived at the drop zone." Does he need a parachute? Gun stopped mid-bite of his bamboo shoot. He looked up and just rolled his eyes at the pilot. A second later, he tossed the half-eaten shoot aside and marched right up to the open hatch. And right in front of the horrified eyes of everyone below, he leapt straight out from 100 meters in the air. At that moment, he looked exactly like a black and white meteor crashing down to Earth. Boom! The second gun slammed into the ground. The whole plaza quaked violently. A massive crater, over 10 meters wide, exploded outward in a giant spiderweb of cracked concrete. The devastating shockwave sent a storm of dust flying, forcefully blasting away all the dozens of mutated beasts that were swarming the soldiers. As the dust finally settled, Gun slowly stood up. He was completely unscathed. Not even a single hair was out of place. He casually dusted off his fur. Then, slightly bending his knees, he stepped out with his left foot and swept his paws into a perfect circle. A flawless, textbook Tai Chi starting stance. He stood there, steady as a mountain and deep as an abyss, radiating the absolute aura of a grandmaster. Every single soldier on the ground was staring in total disbelief. A moment later, the blasted beasts angrily scrambled back to their feet. With an even more terrifying roar, they all lunged at him. A flash of golden light sparked in Gun's eyes. With a seemingly casual flick of the alloy bamboo stick in his hand, whoosh, a sonic boom instantly ripped through the battlefield. The 3 mutated male lions charging at the very front were sent flying by a single strike like they were made of paper. Their bodies lost all balance in midair and slammed into the ruins, dead silent. Right after that, a mutated tiger lunged from the flank, its razor-sharp claws slashing down. Gun didn't even flinch. He just shifted his stance, caught the attack with his stick, and guided it away. Classic Tai Chi, using ounces to deflect thousands of pounds. He smoothly redirected all of the tiger's momentum, sending it crashing right into a charging mutant cheetah. Boom! Two S-class beasts smashed into each other in mid-air, and hit the ground hard, knocked out completely. And yet, Gun remained in his rock-solid starting stance, like he just swatted away a couple of flies. Then, he boldly charged straight into the horde of beasts. The black and white figure weaved in and out of the bloodthirsty pack. His bamboo stick thrusting, flicking, sweeping, and twisting. Every single strike was ruthless and perfectly aimed. Every counterattack was flawlessly timed. The horde fell into utter chaos, blindly ramming and trampling over each other. This single panda had turned a deadly siege into a massive disaster zone. But the strangest part was, as the fight dragged on, a technician in the command center suddenly shouted, "Sir, the mutated beasts that Gun knocked out. The frenzy virus activity in their bodies is plummeting. They're actually turning back to normal." The camera zoomed in. Sure enough, the blood-red glow in the fallen monster's eyes was fading away. Their hideous bone spurs were slowly falling off. That's when it finally hit Li Zhengguo. That crimson pill you gave Gun before he left. It wasn't a combat enhancer at all. It was the cure, an antibody that wiped out the frenzy virus at its root. Gun wasn't there to kill them. He was there to save them. In that moment, Li Zhengguo's respect for you went absolutely through the roof. In just 30 minutes, hundreds of high-level mutated beasts tearing through Linhai City's borders had been completely wiped out and cured by one single panda. Some of the beasts regained their senses, while others were simply knocked out cold. Surviving soldiers hugged each other and wept tears of joy. The national livestream blew up so hard that the screen was flooded with text. Millions of people were chanting Gun's name in unison. But of course, just when everyone thought the nightmare was over, a deafening blast tore through the city center, 100 times more terrifying than any explosion before it. The city's landmark, the Linhai Diamond, it snapped right down the middle with a sickening crack, and slowly collapsed amidst countless screams of terror. Plumes of dust shot into the sky, and from within that rubble, a massive, suffocatingly dark shadow slowly rose to its feet. It was a mutated silverback gorilla, standing over 10 meters tall. Built like an absolute mountain, its entire body was encased in thick, pitch-black bone armor covered in jagged, menacing spikes. Its eyes were glowing crimson, burning like demonic hellfire. The moment it appeared, all the remaining beasts instinctively backed away in fear, bowing to their true king. The source of the frenzy virus, the true Beast King, had finally revealed itself. Roar, it pounded its chest and unleashed a furious howl, sending shockwaves that shattered every window for blocks. Underneath those dark eye patches, Gun's eyes locked in. For the very first time, he looked dead serious. He didn't take a single step back. Instead, he dug his feet in. Shooting out like a cannonball, the alloy bamboo stick carried the full force of a grandmaster. It smashed viciously into the Beast King's calf. Clang, an ear-piercing shriek of metal on metal exploded. Gun's all-out strike only managed to scrape a shower of sparks off that black bone armor. The bamboo stick violently rebounded from the terrifying shockwave, but the Beast King didn't even flinch. It was physically immune. Before Gun could recover, a massive fist, larger than its entire body, crashed down with a deafening sonic boom. Gun raised its staff to block, but still took the devastating punch head-on. Losing its footing, the furry black and white figure was sent flying, like it had just been hit by a bullet train. It smashed brutally through a crumbling wall, vanishing into the ruins. Despair fell over them once again. The Beast King roared at the sky, its heavy footsteps shaking the ground. As it lumbered step by step toward where Gun fell, ready to deliver the final blow. Meanwhile, 100 miles away, inside the Slacker's retirement home, you had been lounging on Da Bai's fluffy back, letting elder son feed you grapes. Sipping your iced bamboo shoot juice, your movements suddenly paused. You slowly lowered your icy glass of bamboo shoot juice, and then you opened your eyes and let out a long sigh. Placing your half-finished drink onto a small agarwood table, you grumbled with sheer annoyance. What a pain. Back at the exact same moment, 100 miles away in the center of Linhai City, the ruins were trembling. Dust choked the sky. The mutated silverback gorilla, towering over 10 meters tall, raised its terrifying fist, capable of crushing an armored tank, ready to finish off Gun beneath the rubble. Before the blow even landed, the sheer wind pressure had already sent debris flying into the air. Inside the Zhongcheng command center, there was dead silence. Li Zhengguo leaned heavily on the tactical table, the veins bulging on the back of his hands. His eyes were bloodshot. Gun had been their absolute last hope. But now, even the Grandmaster Panda had been swatted away like a fly. Just then, the Supreme Command suddenly forced their way into the comms channel. They ordered the Zhongcheng Zoo surveillance feed to be broadcast live nationwide. The brass's logic was simple. The disaster in Linhai City was causing nationwide panic. The people needed a beacon of hope. Everyone needed to see the legendary master who sent a panda to suppress the beast horde. Showing that this peerless expert was still fighting for them. Cut to the feed, Li Zhengguo barked through gritted teeth. Every emergency broadcast in the country instantly split into two screens. On the left screen, the ruins of Linhai City, showing the giant ape's impending strike, and a city teetering on the brink of total annihilation. On the right screen, the zoo in the Zhongcheng suburbs, showing off its brand new Slacker's retirement home sign right at the entrance. Billions of eyes were glued to the right screen. People expected to see a white-haired sage casting powerful spells, or a supreme master drawing a magical blade from afar. Instead, reality left absolutely everyone dumbfounded. On the screen, the autumn sun was perfect. There you were, shirtless, laying comfortably on Da Bai's fluffy belly, just soaking up the rays. Beside you, elder son, wearing his reading glasses, was holding a white jade decanter, carefully pouring monkey wine into a bronze goblet. You picked up the goblet. He took a slow, leisurely sip, and even smacked his lips, savoring the taste. Across the entire country, the internet fell into an eerie silence for a split second. Then, the comments exploded, crashing the servers like a massive tsunami. The front lines are getting slaughtered, and this guy is drinking? The panda is fighting for its life, while the zoo director is just kicking back? Are we being played? Millions of people in Linhai are going to die because of this jerk? Insults, despair, pure rage, the emotions surged like a tidal wave. Li Zhengguo stared at the screen, his hands and feet completely frozen, terrified that he had just made a fatal, irreversible mistake. But ironically, you, right there on the screen, acted like you couldn't see the panic and despair of the world at all. You gently set down your wine cup, slowly closed your eyes, and calmly spoke in your mind. System, establish a mental link. Target, that giant monkey. Ding, mental link established. Medium, employee Gun. With a hum, your consciousness instantly shot out of your physical body. Following the tether of karma set up by Gun, it crossed over 100 miles. And directly crashed into the giant ape's mental space. Right before your eyes was a sickeningly thick, blood-red void. It felt like heaven and earth were entirely suffocated. Countless dark red strings whipped around frantically in the air, like throbbing veins. Or twitching tentacles, oozing a heavy, brutal, and completely maddening aura. And right there, dead center in this void, lurked a massive, grotesque cluster of mutations. It was completely covered in tentacles, eyeballs, and razor-sharp teeth, like hundreds of disgusting nightmares just mashed into one giant lump. A level 50 plague demon. The frenzied bloodstorm. The second the monster sensed your presence, hundreds of its eyeballs snapped toward you all at once. They locked onto you with a dead stare. Then, it ripped its massive jaws open, unleashing a shriek so piercing it could shatter a soul. You just gave it a single look, frowned, and muttered, "Man, you are one ugly freak." You couldn't even be bothered to waste your breath, let alone touch something that filthy with your bare hands. So, you simply channeled the power of the great compassion wind-tearing strike. Except this time, using your fists felt too gross. You just decided to kick it instead. The very next second, your body blurred, leaving nothing but a lingering afterimage where you stood. The air itself completely shattered under the force of your kick. A deafening sonic boom tore right through the blood-red void. Your leg slashed through the sky like a pitch-black streak of lightning. Packing the absolute purest, most brutal, and most absurdly overpowered violence imaginable, it smashed violently into the massive eyeball right at the demon's core. Boom, there was no struggle, no drawn-out fight, and definitely no epic, hard-fought battle. The level 50 frenzied bloodstorm demon didn't even have the chance to let out a second scream. Before it completely disintegrated under that single kick, that massive, grotesque cluster exploded like a sandcastle blasted by a heavy cannon, instantly ripping into tiny pieces, turning into a shower of light that filled the sky. The entire spiritual realm collapsed right along with it, and in reality, only a single second had passed. On the live broadcast from Linhai City, that arrogant, mutated silverback gorilla, who was just about to crush Gun Gun with a single punch, suddenly stiffened up, and right after that, the burning, blood-red light in its eyes was like it had been doused with a bucket of ice water. It instantly faded away. The black bone armor covering its entire body began to crack, inch by inch. It crumbled to the ground in pieces, and those vicious bone spikes completely shattered, one after another. Before anyone could even process what was happening, the giant ape slowly turned around, facing the direction of Zhangcheng, and then, in front of a nationwide audience, the soldiers on the front lines, Li Zhengguo, and everyone at the command center, this once fiercely brutal beast king went weak at the knees and dropped to the ground with a massive thud. It slammed its head hard into the dusty ruins. Total submission. It was bowing down, completely prostrating itself. Down in the ruins, Gun Gun finally pushed off the broken walls and rubble pinning him down, and patted the dust off his butt. He shook his head and stood up. He glanced at the giant ape groveling on the ground, too terrified to move. His expression was completely calm, like absolutely nothing had happened. He even slowly bent over, picked up the half-eaten bamboo shoot he had dropped earlier, and went back to crunching and munching away. This entire scene left the whole country absolutely dumbfounded. The millions of people who were just throwing hate at you suddenly went dead silent. And right after, the chat completely blew up in a totally different direction. Remote suppression? Wait, no, I literally blinked, and the Beast King is on its knees. Whoever was trashing the director just now, step up and apologize. How is this a zoo? This has to be the Heavenly Realms branch office on Earth, right? There was no earth-shattering battle. You didn't even show up in person to make a flashy move. Hell, you didn't even step half a foot off that tiger's back. But somehow, the biggest beast king in Linhai City just fell to its knees like that, and this time, the whole country permanently memorized the name, Salted Fish Retirement Home. Everyone finally began to realize that the director who just slacks off all day and is too lazy to lift a finger might be way more terrifying than anyone ever imagined. 3 days later, Li Zhengguo made good on his promise. A full fleet of 20 heavy transport helicopters flew from the military base all the way to the skies of Zhangcheng. The roaring engines made half the suburbs buzz and shake. Hanging beneath the choppers were massive, custom-built alloy crates, which landed smoothly on the mountain behind the Salted Fish Retirement Home. The core essence of half an A- grade spirit stone vein, delivered right to your hands by the military with maximum security. The upgrades that followed were, naturally, even more insane. Elder Sun strapped on a hard hat, holding some 8 trigrams formation blueprint he got from who knows where, and actually looked the part as he started ordering the combat engineers around. As chunk after chunk of spirit stones were buried beneath the zoo, the entire zoo gave a soft tremor. And right after, a milky white mist of spiritual energy came surging up from the dirt. It was so incredibly thick you could barely see through it. The ivy in the corner started growing like crazy, with vines shooting out as thick as a human wrist. The backyard hot spring had completely turned milky white, and even the steam carried a sweet, spiritual scent. Gun Gun hugged a stalk of purple-veined spirit bamboo, munching away happily, then rolled around in the thick mist of pure spiritual energy. You could literally see him getting chubbier. Second brother, the pig, was squatting on a little folding stool, chowing down on a mutated watermelon, juice dripping all over his snout. And you were still just lounging in your 10,000-year-old agarwood rocking chair, leaning back against Big White, gently stroking his fur. The whole retirement home had officially upgraded from a rundown zoo into a genuine, top-tier spiritual paradise. You were pretty damn satisfied. This deal? Definitely not a loss. But of course, peaceful days never last long. A heavy, bulletproof SUV with no markings, but sporting a special red and white license plate, slammed its brakes right outside the front gate. The door swung open, and 3 agents in black trench coats stepped out. The guy leading the pack was Zhao Feng, captain of Squad 3 from the Special Investigation Bureau for Spiritual Awakening. He glanced up at the sign for the Slacker Retirement Home, his eyes flashing with a mix of pure disgust and absolute greed. Over the past 3 days, they had dug up everything. The military had actually handed over half of an A- class spirit stone vein to a private zoo. To the Bureau, this was an absolute waste of priceless treasures. But more importantly, this place was hiding a panda that did Tai Chi, a monkey that brewed tea, A pig that could set up magical formations, and a mysterious director who made even the military back down. So, they showed up, acting totally self-righteous. Without a word, Zhao Feng fired off a wind blade from his hand, slicing right through the heavy steel lock on the gate. Then, with one solid kick, he busted the rosewood doors wide open. A wave of milky white spiritual energy instantly rushed over them. The moment the three of them stepped into the yard, their faces dropped. The sheer density of this spiritual energy was actually way more intense than the top-tier training rooms at the Bureau's headquarters. The greed in Zhao Feng's eyes burned even hotter. He marched up, stopping 5 meters in front of you, and whipped out his black badge. His voice was cold and completely arrogant. Special Investigation Bureau for Spiritual Awakening. Chen Leduo, you are suspected of illegally hoarding strategic class spiritual resources and covering up major information regarding spiritual mutations. Right now, we are taking full control of this zoo. You're coming back to headquarters with us for questioning. Immediately, but unfortunately for him, you didn't even open your eyes. You were still gently stroking Big White's fur. Big White was purring so loudly from the comfort. He just rolled over and exposed his fluffy belly. You just shifted your angle and kept on brushing. The air instantly got really freaking awkward. Zhao Feng's face went completely dark. The two agents behind him immediately unleashed the crushing aura of B-Class awakened. A sudden gale whipped up, sending dead leaves swirling wildly as their pressure blasted right toward you. But a split second later, Big White snapped his eyes open. Those ice blue, slitted pupils just shot a freezing, deadpan glare at the three of them. And then, a terrifying aura, 100 times stronger than theirs, slammed down like a sledgehammer. All color instantly drained from the two agents' faces. Their knees buckled under the weight, and with a heavy thud, they collapsed to their knees. The pressure was so intense it actually cracked the solid bluestone paving beneath them. Zhao Feng barely managed to stay on his feet, trembling, but cold sweat was already pouring down his forehead. Through gritted teeth, he snarled a threat. Chen Leduo, Li Zhengguo can't protect you. We report directly to the Supreme Council. If you dare lay a finger on us, you're making an enemy of the entire state machine. Only then did you lazily let out a yawn. You barely even glanced at him. The park is closed today. Get out. Zhao Feng laughed, absolutely furious. He simply whipped out a silver spirit energy detector, getting ready to scan the entire park directly and forcibly seize all the resources and animals. However, just as he raised the device, second brother over there had already finished gnawing on his last bite of watermelon. He wiped his snout and spat out a watermelon seed. The seed flew in a perfect arc, landing dead center in a trash can 10 meters away. Then, he stood up and strutted over with a leisurely, side-to-side waddle. His little eyes locked onto that glowing blue detector. There were two things he hated more than anything else in this world. Number 1. People interrupting your sunbathing. And number 2. People waving shiny, glowing junk around in his face. So, he gently tapped his right front hoof on the dirt. The very next second, the stone pavement beneath Zhao Feng and his two men suddenly turned soft. It morphed straight into a pale blue swamp of pure spirit energy. Their legs sank in instantly. The harder they struggled, the deeper they sank. Before Zhao Feng could even spit out a curse, the lens of his detector swung over to second brother. Its red warning lights flashed like crazy, and the numbers on the screen skyrocketed. 1,000, 20,000. The absolute limit of that device was only 100,000. And yet, just by pointing at a pig, the readings were actually surging this high. But before Zhao Feng could even process what was happening, the high-grade spirit stone battery inside the detector was completely drained dry from afar by second brother's innate devouring talent. The array formations completely destabilized, and the internal circuits just blew up. Bang! A massive fireball erupted right in Zhao Feng's hands. The blast left his face completely blackened with soot, burning off half of his eyebrows on the spot. Every single hair on his head stood straight up, and smoke was literally puffing out of his mouth. Second brother, meanwhile, just let out a loud, satisfied burp, puffing out a tiny ring of black smoke. He gave the guy a look of utter disgust, then turned around to go back to slicing his watermelon. Seeing this, the crowd of rogue cultivators gathered outside the gates, along with the streamers and all the nosy onlookers, completely lost it. Roars of laughter erupted through the crowd. The investigation bureau captain just got blown up by a pig. Wasn't that gadget supposed to be worth a few million? This is hilarious. I swear that pig knows more about array formations than human experts do. Zhao Feng's face turned completely green. But wait, it wasn't over yet. His two agents finally managed to break free from the aura pressure. Eyes bloodshot with rage, they drew their spirit energy combat blades. They lunged at second brother from the left and the right, screaming at the top of their lungs. Kill that damn beast, but as luck would have it, they charged in fast, but they hit the ground even faster. Second brother just tapped his front hoof against the dirt 3 times. In a flash, a hidden miniature array he had set up earlier sprang to life. The mutated locust tree right above the guy on the left violently shook, and a massive, purple wasp nest the size of a washbasin dropped straight onto his head. He swung his blade and slashed it open. Big mistake. Hundreds of mutated wasps with crackling lightning on their stingers buzzed furiously, swarming straight inside his clothes. His spirit shield couldn't block them at all. He instantly dropped his sword and started rolling all over the ground in agony. They stung his head until it was covered in massive, swollen lumps. The guy on the right, meanwhile, tried to quickly detour around the chaos. But suddenly, several skunk fruits exploded right beneath his feet. A blast of yellow-green, incredibly foul toxic gas sprayed directly into his face. He took one deep breath of it and almost puked his guts out right there on the spot. Right after that, his foot stepped onto a slick layer of transparent spiritual moss. Forcing his entire body into a sudden split, his front teeth violently smashing against the bluestone pavement. 3 high-ranking agents from the investigation bureau, in a matter of mere seconds, were played for absolute fools by a pig. The livestream camera went completely wild, and the chat was dying of laughter. Zhao Feng had finally, completely snapped. He crawled out of the mud puddle looking incredibly pathetic, covered head to toe in foul-smelling mud. His trench coat was torn to shreds, with his head smoking and endless waves of mocking laughter echoing from outside. His sanity completely snapped right then and there. He locked his death glare onto you, and with gritted teeth, he pulled a dark red wooden box from his lower back, crushing it in one vicious grip. A flying knife, completely dark red and barely 3 inches long, slowly levitated into the air. The moment the flying knife appeared, the temperature in the courtyard plummeted. A freezing, bone-chilling aura flooded the surroundings. Outside the gate, an old man carrying a massive sword took one look, and the color instantly drained from his face. The soul-severing throwing knife, an A-class taboo spiritual weapon. That thing drains the user's lifespan. He's gone completely mad. That's right, Zhao Feng had truly lost his mind. His face rapidly turned a ghastly white, and his hair visibly faded into an ashen gray. His skin started to wither and wrinkle, but he didn't care at all. Right now, all he wanted was to make you pay. He wanted every single spiritual pet in this courtyard dead, and to wipe this humiliation from the face of the earth. Resisting arrest, assaulting an officer, obstructing law enforcement. Zhao Feng bit down hard on the tip of his tongue, and spat a mouthful of vital energy onto the flying knife. His voice turned completely hysterical. Arrest on the spot, the flying knife let out a sharp hum, and turned into a streak of dark red light. It was so fast that it completely broke the limits of human sight. It even ripped a fine black tear right through thin air, shooting straight for the spot between your eyebrows. Da Bai let out a furious tiger roar on the spot, lunging forward fiercely to take the hit. But surprisingly, you just casually reached out, and gently pressed down on its head. Don't move, you were still lying there, too lazy to even try dodging. And right when the flying knife was barely half a meter from your forehead, under the old locust tree, Elder Sun, who had been sitting cross-legged the whole time reading an introduction to formation arrays, finally closed the book. It let out a sigh and pushed up its reading glasses. It picked up the cup of premium Longjing tea next to it and spat out a straight tea stalk. Then, it slowly stood up, stretching out 2 furry fingers, and aiming directly at the flying knife's trajectory from over 10 meters away. It gently flicked its fingernail. Ding! With that light sound, the A-class taboo spiritual weapon that was overflowing with murderous intent just a second ago stopped dead in midair. It hovered exactly 1 inch in front of Elder Sun's fingertip, completely immobilized. Immediately after, it gently flicked it again. Bang! The flying knife started to crack from the very tip. In a split second, the cracked spider webbed across the entire blade. Then, the whole knife crumbled into powder in midair. Red dust scattered all over the ground. Zhao Feng looked like he'd taken a devastating blow, violently spitting out a mouthful of blood on the spot. His entire aura completely collapsed. Meanwhile, Elder Sun looked like it hadn't done a single thing. He just picked up his Longjing tea, took a sip, and shook his head. This year's batch. The roasting is a bit off. With that, he casually waved his free left hand toward the door. The milky white spiritual mist in the yard instantly surged, condensing into an invisible wall of air. It crashed down from the sky, slamming brutally into Zhao Feng and his two guys. The three of them didn't even have time to finish screaming before they were smashed hard into the dirt. The bluestone pavement shattered, leaving 3 human-shaped craters, half a meter deep. They appeared instantly in the yard, as the crowd around them gasped in unison. Zhao Feng lay at the bottom of the crater, his limbs completely limp. Panting heavily, he finally, truly understood. In this place, let alone the director, even a random monkey could completely wipe the floor with him. His arrogant, high and mighty attitude was completely gone. He struggled to lift his head, looking up at you with absolute terror, begging for mercy. Chen, Director Chen, please, spare my life. You glanced at the 3 pieces of trash in the crater, then shot a look at the crowd outside holding up their phones. Knowing you had made your point loud and clear, you spoke calmly. Elder Sun, that is enough. If you mess up the yard, Da Bai is the one who has to clean it up. Hearing this, Elder Sun pulled back his power and went right back to reading under the tree. But as luck would have it, it wasn't over yet. Just as Zhao Feng was struggling to crawl out of the crater, a sound came from his trench coat's inner pocket. A tiny, faint crack. Inside that pocket was a vial of highly concentrated mutant virus he had smuggled out of the Lin Hai ruins. It was a top-secret sample specifically requested by the Bureau of Investigation. Thanks to Elder Sun's smash just now, the bulletproof glass vial shattered. The very next second, a pitch-black mist spewed out from his collar. This black mist was nothing like spiritual energy. It was foul, sticky, deranged, carrying the absolute stench of utter destruction. The moment it hit the air, it began to expand rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it swallowed half the yard. The mutant ivy on the wall barely touched it, and its leaves instantly withered, rotted, and melted into black sludge. Inside your head, the system alarms blared at max volume. Warning, detected the residual consciousness of a level 30 blood frenzy beast matriarch. Vessel breached. The matriarch's consciousness is partially materializing in the real world. Initiate immediate lockdown. In the center of the black mist, space warped violently. Rubble floated into the air. Light fractured into chaos, and bone-chilling whispers began echoing in everyone's ears. Right after that, a massive pair of blood-red eyes slowly opened in the depths of the black mist. In those eyes, there was zero sanity, only endless, ravenous madness. Zhao Feng just caught a single glimpse of it, and his mind completely broke. He clawed desperately at the crater to escape, nothing left in his mouth but a terrified "Help me," and right at that moment, Da Bai and Gun Gun, standing upright, second brother, wrapped entirely in a glowing spiritual aura, and Elder Sun, taking off his reading glasses, stepped in front of you at the exact same time. Da Bai's white fur stood straight up on end, growling like rumbling thunder, while yin and yang energy surged wildly all around Gun Gun's body. Second brother stomped his front hooves on the ground, rolling out glowing array patterns. Elder Sun even summoned a long golden staff into his hands. They were terrified, but despite that fear, not a single one of them backed down. You looked at them, and just let out a heavy sigh. "Alright, stand down, don't get in the way." With just those few words, all 4 spirit pets instantly dropped their defensive stances. The very next second, you finally stood up from your rocking chair. The exact moment you rose to your feet, an aura far deeper, far colder than that giant blood-red eye, and infinitely more overpowering, exploded outward like a shockwave, with you right at the center. The floating rubble all around you was instantly blasted into dust, and even the swirling black mist froze in place. You lifted your foot, and took a single step forward. With just that one step, reality and the psychic realm briefly overlapped. The courtyard, the old locust tree, the hot spring pool, the bluestone paving, all of it faded away before your eyes. In its place was an endless, blood-red void. That massive claw of black mist that had blocked out the sky finally revealed its true form in this dimension. A gigantic, constantly squirming mutated monstrosity, completely covered in writhing tentacles and twitching eyeballs. Right in the center was a frantically beating black core. The mother entity sensed a fatal threat, and immediately went completely berserk. Hundreds of tentacles ripped through the void, swarming toward you like a massive, suffocating wave. However, you couldn't even be bothered to dodge. You simply raised your right hand, and casually threw a backhand slap into the empty air. There were no flashy special effects, no over-the-top shockwaves of energy, but the exact second that slap was thrown, a hand forged from pure psychic power. An invisible, indescribably massive hand appeared completely out of thin air. It completely bypassed every single defense, all the tentacles, all the toxic mist. It just grabbed that black core in one brutal grip. The mother entity let out an ear-piercing shriek of energy, and its entire mutated body thrashed around wildly. Your eyes went ice cold, and your 5 fingers slowly curled into a fist. The core exploded right then and there. Along with that dull, heavy thud, the entire mother entity instantly lost all signs of life. It turned into a massive cloud of gray ash, completely erased from existence by the psychic realm. And back in the real world, only 1 single second had passed. That massive claw blocking the sky, those giant blood-red eyes, that dark red curtain of clouds, all of it shattered and vanished at the exact same time. Sunlight spilled back into the courtyard. The black ice melted away. The air went back to normal. All that suffocating, crushing malice vanished without a single trace. The people outside the gates, who had barely managed to run a few dozen meters away, all turned their heads back in complete shock. After the livestream feed finally came back online, the chat room fell into a dead silence for 10 whole seconds. Then the comments exploded. What the hell? Did it really just die? The live chat went absolutely berserk again. Am I seeing things right now? What happened to that mass of whatever it was just now? It only took a single second. The sky cleared up, the director barely even moved, and that thing is just gone. Down at the bottom of the pit, Zhao Feng absolutely did not dare to look up anymore. He rolled over and knelt in the muddy water, burying his head firmly into the ground, his whole body shaking like a leaf. Only at this very moment did he truly understand just what kind of entity he had messed with. No, that wasn't just some entity. It was an existence he could never understand in his entire lifetime, never touch, and couldn't even begin to imagine. You pulled your hand back, rolled your wrist a bit, and the coldness in your eyes quickly faded, returning right back to your usual lazy, couldn't be bothered look. Disturbing my sunbathing, you deserve to be punished. After saying that, you turned around, lay back down on the rocking chair, and closed your eyes again. Second brother, oink, oink, throw these useless pieces of trash out. And from now on, hang a sign at the door. No dogs or investigation bureau members allowed. Hearing this, second brother instantly perked up. He strutted over to the edge of the pit, hooked his front hooves, and turned his spiritual energy into a glowing rope. He tied Zhao Feng and the 2 unconscious agents up like a string of beads. Right after that, with a heavy flick, the 3 of them flew out the main gate like torn potato sacks. They soared right over the heads of the gawking crowd and smashed hard onto the main road dozens of meters away. A few more bones definitely snapped. The onlookers subconsciously stepped back in unison, clearing out a huge open space, absolutely terrified of catching their bad luck. Meanwhile, back in the courtyard, the whole ordeal was just over. Da Zi plopped back down and started snoring again. Elder son went back to reading his book. Gun Gun waddled back to the rear courtyard to munch on bamboo, while second brother turned around to slice up a fresh watermelon. And you just lay there on your rocking chair, acting as if you had casually squashed an annoying little mosquito. From this day onward, this slacker retirement home in the suburbs of Zhangcheng absolutely became a forbidden no-go zone in the minds of awakened across the entire globe. At the exact same time, in the deepest trenches of the Pacific Ocean, at the very bottom of the Mariana Trench, there was no light here, no sound, only a terrifying water pressure capable of crushing solid steel into paper-thin sheets, and endless, boundless darkness. But somehow, right inside this abyss of absolute dead silence, the seabed sludge that had been settling for countless millennia suddenly began to slowly churn. Right after that, a colossal body, stretching over 10,000 meters long, slowly started to writhe in the pitch black. The seawater surrounding it seemed to be forcefully pushed away by some higher dimensional power, forming a bizarre, eerie vacuum. Deep within the trench, countless undercurrents abruptly reversed. Massive whirlpools expanded, The seabed's rocky layers cracked and crumbled apart, one after another. And then, within that realm of absolute darkness, a gigantic pair of vertical, slit-like pupils slowly opened. Those eyes, they didn't have real pupils, only endlessly churning clouds of toxic green mist. Inside them overflowed an aura of dead silence, pure decay, and absolute destruction. Level 80 Apocalyptic Plague, the Abyssal Sea Toxin. It seemed to sense an energy ripple coming from the distant east. That was what remained after its own kind was completely eradicated. A lingering echo left behind in the very laws of the world. And so, those vertical, slit-like pupils, shrouded in a toxic mist, slowly shifted across countless miles of ocean and land, piercing straight through the Earth's crust and the roaring tides. They locked dead onto that seemingly ordinary zoo in the suburbs of Zhangcheng, a place that was actually bursting with sky-high spiritual energy. The deep-sea undercurrents began to speed up. A true catastrophe, one capable of sweeping across the entire globe, was quietly brewing down in the dark abyss.